can certainly revisit in the future. Okay. Before I get started, I always want to get a sense for who's in the room. So get your chat going. I'd like for each of you to write in the chat what your program is. What degree program are you in? So I'm looking at, I see MBAs, MSAs, everybody, MSBA, keep going. See some people and some dual degree, human factors. We're representing the masses. Thank you so much for entering in who you are. Also, one question, if you are an international student, if you can just write me in the chat. Me, just make it easy. Who is an international student? Me, 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 me. Kind of like a chorus. So there's a variety of you that are international, just trying to get an understanding so that we have, again, understanding of who's in the room. We can cater our comments to that. And then lastly, I just have one last question. Do we have any brand new spring 2022 students in the room? Any spring? If so, just raise your hand. Looks like maybe, Rusha, you do everything. Good job. Again, I encourage you all to be involved, and so glad that you're here today. I will now move forward and have Nicole talk about the process. So Nicole, you are up.
Thank you, Audra. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. And as Audra said, my name is Nicole Black. I'm the Associate Director, and I work in Graduate Academic Advising and Engagement. So my portion today is to talk about the beginning steps of then making this internship for credit, so it does count towards your degree. I always tell students the most daunting task of all this is truly getting the internship. So once you've worked with all the wonderful different services we have and resources and people like Audra and all those fabulous women over at Career Services, and you land that internship, congratulations. So the next step is, if you are a student on an F1 visa, you do have to count it for credit. If you're a domestic student, you don't, but you can. The benefits of that is clearly you can count it toward one of your degree requirements. So in all of your degrees, you all have the ability in the electives to count the internship for credit, which is definitely a great opportunity to then be able to take a course. Take credit that can go towards your course requirements. So if you're an F1 visa student, you do have to do this. Again, domestic, you don't, but we do have a lot of domestic students that do choose to do so. So for all of you, you get the opportunity to do 1 3-credit internship. And again, that 1 3-credit does count towards your degree. If you're in a dual degree, those of you in an MBA and an MS degree, you are allowed to do 3 internships for credit towards your degree. But if you're in an MS degree, traditionally, the rule in MBA is you're only allowed to do 1 3-credit. And then you're allowed to do a second, you can also do a 1-credit internship. Currently now the rule is 1 credit, but if you wanted to do a second, we tell students to absolutely speak to their internship coordinator. And not to get too much into the weeds, but the 3 and the 1 credit, the biggest difference are each of them, well, the big difference is 1 is 3 credits that counts towards your degree and the 1 credit does not. Why we do the second 1 credit is to allow international students to get a second internship for credit, because we fully understand that a big reason for you coming to the United States and coming to the universities is to get that much needed internship for credit and that experience that definitely has longevity for you in your career. And with the 3 and the 1, there are different minimum requirements. And again, not to get too into that, but what we can definitely do is make sure that the link, oh, sorry, go ahead, Audra, if you can open that link, obtaining a graduate academic internship. It goes a little bit into it. So this is a lovely website. My apologies. I should have started that. You know, I just know this from memory. So sometimes I'm like, let me give everybody a visual. So as I said, obtaining an internship. Our website, we try very hard to make it very clear and friendly for students to see through. But again, the policies and requirements, and just to let you know, in order to do an internship for credit, you must have a 3.0 GPA. That is a requirement academically. And if it is a 3-credit internship, most of them do have an academic requirement associated with that. But you can click on that link, and we do provide information on each degree and what's the academic requirement for each one. So again, this is for graduate students, and you can go right to that link. We do ask for you to actually also career services advisors, if you'd like to speak to them about the internship opportunities. And also we also recommend once you get your internship, you can definitely meet with my office. And what we do is go over exactly how this internship would count towards your degree to make it very clear. And again, sometimes we do have to students may want to be a little strategic with when they do their internship, in terms of if you're going to do it in the summer and when you want to complete your degree. Again, my office is more than happy to meet with you to go over where your internship falls within your degree and exactly the requirements for that internship. Again, once you land the internship and you've met with us, we do have the internship for credit form, if you don't mind clicking on that. And this is the form that gives you credit for the internship. And so you don't have to have this completed before meeting us. You can absolutely meet with us or even email us and say, I would like to do an internship for credit. We will send you this form and complete it. So this is the form that we ensure that you meet the academic criteria for this internship. So the top portion of this form, my office will complete, along with then the second part where we talk about the internship section. So in the top portion is just pretty much the basics. Do you meet the requirement? Do you have the 3.0 GPA? We do ask on the form, have you completed previous internships, and that will allow the internship coordinator to know that as well. So pretty self-explanatory. I just want to preface, probably very soon this may change a bit, but this is just kind of gives you a general information. And then at the bottom is the most important part, if it's going to be a 3-credit or a 1-credit, and then of course who the internship coordinator is. So a lot of times we are more than happy to guide you as who the internship coordinator is. Just let you know, a lot of times students, as they're looking for internships, they want to know, oh, would this get approved? So we do recommend talking to your internship coordinator to determine if in fact this internship is, for example, in analytics, or is it really, if you're in the MSAA, is it more of an analytics accounting internship? So we do a lot of times refer you to the internship coordinator just to get an idea to make sure it will count. But normally if you get your internship, you have your offer letter. So it's very important when you come to us, you have your offer letter. So that way you have your offer letter. We're going to fill out this form. And then also if you're an international student, you know, Brittany will go into more detail, the CPT application. So my job really just kind of guides you through the process, because again, it can be a little daunting about all these forms and where they live and who to go to, but we're more than happy to guide you in that process. And again, ultimately, my office doesn't approve you to do the internship. My office ensures that you meet the academic criteria. And I did notice this internship form in front of us. It's just a view. I think if this link is on my website, I am so sorry. We'll make sure to update this, because I did notice it says Karen Osterheld, and that is not true. It is Scott Boss. So my apologies. We'll make sure we get that updated. But
That was my
form.
question as well, Nicole. Are there any other updates, or are the rest of the internship coordinators correct here? I know Scott Thomas is also.
Yes, this isn't, and I am so sorry. I did not I think there's 2 links on our website. The actual internship for credit form that we fill out, the PDF, that's correct. So I apologize for clicking on that. If you don't mind going back out, and the actual other form is correct. Thank you, Scott, for pointing that out. You know, sometimes you're just talking and you're like, oh, well, that was incorrect with the internship coordinator.
Sorry for distracting you.
No, that's okay. That's fine. If you don't mind scrolling down. So yes, this internship for credit, if you can complete that form, I will make sure this gets updated. If you click that, hopefully it'll work and it's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Okay. So either way, we will make sure the correct forms are there. Oh my, I'm sorry about that. Either way, I'll just check with my office to make sure everything's updated. But that is the internship for credit process academically. And again, we just kind of step by step tell you exactly next steps. And again, a lot of times this can be daunting. We tell students, do not hesitate to reach out to my office. We're more than happy to connect with you, guide you in this whole process. Because I think, you know, again, the most important part is you get the internship and then you come to us and we'll then guide you on next steps. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Does anybody have any, I'm looking at the chat. The chat looks like it's been actually, it says, hi, Audra, is this internship program out of the scope for students taking the first spring semesters remotely, in my case, India? Sounds to me like that's a Brittany question. It's coming, but Brittany, do you want to address it really quickly?
Sure. Quickly, if you are outside of the US and you plan to study on an F1 visa, that means your F1 status has not started yet. And unfortunately, you are not yet eligible for an internship.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Navia, for your question. And Nicole.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting. You can still do an internship for credit. If you want to do it in your home country. So keep in mind, if you wanted to do the internship for credit in the United States, and again, that's where F1 visas, but we do, quite frankly, have students who are international in the past who stayed in their home country, or they were in the United States, went back to their home country to do an internship. And what's nice is in that point, because they're doing it in their home country, they didn't have to worry about CPT. But yes, keep in mind, you could do it in your home country if you'd like to, pending it meets all the requirements.
Yes, thank you for clarifying, Nicole.
Does anybody have any other questions? If you do, and you'd like to just unmute and ask it. But
Hi, Audra, I have a question.
Okay, Carol. Oh, sorry, I see some hands. Sorry about that. Go,
yeah, those of us that started in the fall, I believe we're eligible for internships after this spring semester. I want to know if that's correct. And secondly, if you find an internship, because I'm doing an MBA with a concentration in business analytics, if you find a business analytics concentration type internship thing that's maybe not necessarily management, is that still okay?
I'll address the first part. If you, again, are on an F1 visa and you started at Bentley in person in fall 2021, yes, you are eligible for CPT. So that's the immigration side of your internship, beginning summer 2022. So next semester, summer 2022.
And I can address the sort of the general, though I'm accounting, the general thing about if you're doing an internship and you have a specific program, so you're in the analytics program, you really need to have a intern. If you want to do the internship for credit, meaning the 3-credit internship, it needs to be specific to your degree program and not a sort of, it has to be, I mean, your offer letter needs to say that it is specifically analytics of the type of work you're going to be doing. Not a, oh, we're planning on giving some exposure to it. So it does need to specifically direct that. So if you're a systems person, you need to have a systems, if you're in a systems program, you need to have a systems internship to count for credit. If you're an accounting intern, it needs to be an accounting internship to get it for credit. If you're an accounting analytics, it has to be accounting analytics so you can do it for credit. You can still do the 1-credit course, which doesn't count towards your degree and doesn't count towards your program, but you can't do the 3-credit course.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. May I ask Mabuba, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, I had my MBA from Illinois State. I haven't applied for any CPT or OPT before. So I was wondering, like, if I can start to apply for CPT and then OPT after my graduation here at Bentley.
Sounds like that's you, Brittany.
And I graduated on 2019 on my MBA.
Okay, quickly. So CPT is related to your current degree program. So that is what you would be eligible for. And then OPT generally you apply for following your graduation. So we will apply in your final semester of your degree program. And that again will be related to your current degree program. If you have a previous degree, we can email us and talk to CISS. There may be a way, but it may not be your first OPT. You may have to complete a year of OPT and then apply again.
And this is going to be the last for this segment. I'm going to ask Joy. Joy, do you have a question?
Yes. So I was told by a peer that for international students, the internship must not start before the first day of the semester and not end after the final day. I'm wondering if this rule applies to domestic students as well.
Nicole, is that something that you...
Yeah, sorry. So so basically all internships are supposed to start the first day of the term. Now, if you, even as a domestic, if you wanted to try to start earlier, then that's when you would speak to the internship coordinator to determine if they would let you start earlier. But they really, because you're getting it for credit, it has to live within the start and end dates of that academic term. So if you did want to start early, then maybe a week. But again, I would say you can check with your internship coordinator.
Okay, thank you.
And for Joy's question, I think we are still in discussion, and I think I'm also seeking answer for that question. So stay tuned. I'll get back to you.
I would add, this is one plus for F1 students if it's a week early for domestic. Again, it comes down to your internship coordinator's approval, but for students on F1 visas who will be applying for CPT, you may begin your internship 2 weeks before the start of the semester. However, the end date does need to be the end date of the semester.
And I do see one more question, so I'm going to say, is it Mahima?
Hi, Audra. Yes. So I have a question. Since I have joined Bentley in the spring semester this year, so I will be eligible for a 3-credit internship next year in the January semester. So if I take that as a 3-credit internship, will it, can I just end my semester with that internship, or do I need to take another course also along with that?
A lot of good international questions already, Brittany. You're not going to have to do anything later. So,
I know.
so thank you everybody for your questions. And Brittany, what is your quick response?
Sure. So the quick response is no. Unfortunately, CPT, so a CPT course cannot be your only course in your final semester.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you. And again, if you have further questions, this is the great thing, is that you're meeting us, getting a taste, and know that you can always come to ask us further questions by Zoom, in person. We are here for you to help. And so I am going to move then forward to our faculty perspectives. I'm going to start with Professor Liu to share some thoughts with you. And again, certainly if you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. We can do the same thing after this brief segment. Okay. Okay, so here we go.
So I'll go first. Thanks, Audra.
Yes.
I am an assistant professor at the Department of Mathematical Sciences, and I'm the internship coordinator of the MSBA program. So I'm going to share with you what the approval process is like for me when I get an application from our MSBA, one of our MSBA students to take either of the internship courses. So it really works like an algorithm, and I asked myself 3 questions. I also want to mention that you don't need to see me unless you have an internship offer. So that, so you need to do a lot of hard work before you begin this application process. So I asked myself 3 questions. What the internship is about? Is the internship in the realm of analytics? Because analytics really has become such an indispensable tool in virtually all areas of business. So I'd say for modern business professionals, it's a requirement now. So it seems it gave us also challenges to decide whether we should approve. Let's say you are in your MSBA program, but then you are getting an internship from an accounting firm. So how do we decide on this? So I must check if the internship opportunity is in the realm of analytics. Does the internship include any component of analytics? Or you may be previously a journalist and you cannot get a internship in journalism, and hoping that I approve your application. And I also need to check, is the internship opportunity a substantial does the internship require you to work for certain hours? So that's the second question. And then the next, I'm going to ask myself, okay, so who is the student? I need to see signature from Nicole to make sure that you're in a good standing to take these internship courses, and do you have all the prerequisites? Now, the third question I'm going to ask myself is when the internship is going to take place, because CISS have very strict requirements in terms of the dates, and you guys can ask Brittany about the details. So I need to see whether your internship will happen during the duration that's allowed by CISS. So your offer letter helps me answer question 1 and question 3 on my list. And I need to see Nicole's signature from that graduate internship credit bearing course form, and that form, to make sure that you are in a good standing academically. Now, a little bit about ST590 and ST701. So there are 2 internship courses you may potentially take. ST590 is a 1 credit course. As I mentioned before, a lot of positions these days have some components of analytics. So we encourage our students to explore opportunities in different industries, and sometimes a small opportunity may lead to a bigger opportunity. So I'd say go get that internship, and if your internship has a component of analytics, be it in visualization or some kind of modeling, we'll approve your application if you are take ST590. So as long as you your internship includes a component of analytics work. ST701 is a different story. Now, in this course, we really look for students who are doing substantial amount of analytics work. So I'll give you an example. So the easiest case for me to approve would be the following. For example, a very popular online furniture company, and they have hired a lot of our graduates, MSBA students. The students get the offer, come to my office, and look at the offer letter. The first question, and I see the job title, data scientist, data analyst, or graduate analytics intern. This is very straightforward. It's screaming, I'm doing substantial amount of analytics work. And then usually this type of position also give you full-time, 40 hours per week, that kind of position. And then I just need to check the tuition and also your academic standing. 590 though, we don't require you have a job title. Well, actually, let me rewind a little bit. Sometimes some positions may not actually give you the title exactly as data scientist or analytics. may have different names, or data engineer, but it really comes down to what kind of work you're doing. And sometimes on the offer letter, a company may also not detail exactly what you're doing. So in this case, if I cannot see straightforwardly what your internship, if your internship includes a substantial amount of analytics work, I would ask you to provide a written statement from your manager or a phone call from your manager, testifying that your internship does include analytics work or substantial amount of analytics work. So I don't want you to think, oh, I have to get an internship opportunity with the title data scientist analytics. No, sometimes it's the title is just a title. It really comes down to the type of work that you're going to be doing at the company. Okay, so 590, again, I think we are more relaxed when it comes to the amount of analytics work and type of analytics work. So what we're looking for is that you're doing some kind of analytics work in this position. It doesn't have to be substantial. So when you get the job offer, you can, based on what I've just described, you can think about whether you're going to apply for 590 or ST701. It's also a decision based on whether you want to replace the course with ST701. So that's a consideration on your part. And okay, so when Audra contacted me about this workshop, and she also recommended if I could talk about some of the things that I find helpful for students in this process. So I'm just going to talk about some perspectives that I think will be helpful if you have this kind of mindset before you begin the process. As Nicole and Brittany has mentioned, the process of the application could be daunting, but they're just rules, and it's a cliche. Rules are there for a reason. So I want you to think that do follow the rules, but the rules are here to help you, and each one of us are here to help you. We're not against you. And also, when you get the job offer letter, if you are an international student, which means that you have to take either of the two courses, start the process early, asking questions. And be diligent. For international students, I always tell them, just ask when in doubt. It doesn't hurt. Be diligent. If you're not sure about your I-20 or other questions, and do check in with the CISS. And you should be doing that. Patience is a virtue. Do give us enough time to approve your application. So if you send me a letter, give me a couple of days to respond to you. And I believe that CISS also requires a certain amount of time, and that you should, before you start, well, I think CISS also requires that you should apply in advance so that, they have enough time to approve your application and you can begin your internship on the proper date. And also, well, this is not really related to the application process, but just in general, and students also, believe it or not, also come to me about asking these questions, but I think I'm not the best person in terms of, the channels that you should explore to get an internship, and you should really talk to Audra and utilize the resources in our career center. But don't be picky. Begin with a small opportunity. If you at this certain stage you only have small opportunities, because if you do small opportunities, sometimes it may lead to substantial opportunities. And know what you want. And if you're in analytics, as I've mentioned, a lot of positions now have degrees, certain amount of analytics work. So there are a lot of opportunities. It can be a competitive process to get in the internship, and it can be a tedious process or daunting process to get approval in order to take an internship process. But in the end, you want to get a good job, you want to establish a solid career, and everything will be worth it. And I will stop it here.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu. And I do see a question here that for either you or Scott in the chat from Joseph, who asks, is it necessary for the intern beyond your concentration to be approved? E.g., what if my concentration is law and taxation and I've got an internship in MBA leadership? Will you approve it?
What do you mean when you say concentration? Do you mean degree program?
Sorry, I think that, so the student is an MBA student and they have a concentration in law and
Mhm.
taxation. Okay, so with the MBA, sorry, if you don't mind, I think I may be able to answer this a little bit. So with the MBA, some of you are kind of fortunate because of the MBA, you may have electives, and let's say your concentration, for example, is in law and taxation, and you do have an unrestricted elective that's not a concentration. You do get an internship and it happens to be more MBA. You can count that as one of your electives for the MBA, but it doesn't have to count as one of your concentration courses, if that makes sense. If you want to use an internship toward a concentration in the MBA, it has to, that internship, as Scott had said earlier, has to be part of the discipline in that concentration. But from those of you who may be in an MBA and just, you know, want to do general electives, then you have a lot more freedom and you could do an internship in the MBA, which is very different. So I would say to that question, that's a good question, but I would say you can also email me and I can probably get in a little bit more depth about your curriculum to show you if you did get an internship, but it tends to be more MBA, how that would count.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. And hopefully that's a bit more clear for you, Joseph. Scott, did you have any additional comments that you wanted to share from the faculty perspective with our students? And just, again, I know Professor Liu spoke a lot about MSBA, but I really do appreciate your perspectives as a whole as it relates to all of the students that are here today.
Yeah, if you would go back up one slide.
Mhm.
So I mean, I would, I think for the most part, one of the things you need to realize about a university is that we're about as close to being independent contractors and still have a full-time job as you can get, which is a really great gig for the professors, but it doesn't mean we always talk to each other. So sometimes we're not always consistent. So the math or the statistics department is going to have different requirements than the accounting department. We're trying to be a bit more standard, but sometimes we're not standard between the whole thing. I would really mirror what Professor Liu said in terms of what we do in accounting. And what it really comes to, well, I mean, one of the first things I ask students is, why are you doing an internship for credit? Especially I do this with domestic students. I mean, do you have a good reason for why you're doing this? Because what it does is it takes away one of your electives where you could, like, especially like in the analytics area, you could beef up on some of your stats, or you could beef up on a programming class, or you could take something, a specialty course, like in my personal one is security. Take an extra security course. I mean, security is awesome. But I'll say that, I'll tell everybody that at any time. But so the question is, why are you doing it for credit? I mean, because it is going to take away from one of your electives, and it does cost you. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'd like to end early, and given Bentley's tuition requirements, I understand that you want to end your degree early, so that's great. But one of the things, and international students actually have to have, you all have to be supervised. Otherwise, Brittany just says, no, you can't do it. And so that's where the 590 comes in. So if you decide that you want to do an internship and you want it to be, it doesn't have to be, I mean, and you want to keep your classes, go ahead and do the 590. Pretty much, I mean, I think for the most part, a lot of us will approve internships for international students with the 590 course with relatively low requirements, at least in terms of being for your program. Because I mean, one of the big purposes that we have here is for you to get a job. and an internship is the fastest way for you to get a job. Now, when it comes to the internship for credit, I mean, this is where you have to do a substantial amount of whatever your program is. So in accounting, it needs to be, if you want to, and this also goes back to what Joseph was talking about. So Joseph, if you got yourself an accounting internship and the MBAs wouldn't do it, well, I'd probably approve it, because I mean, if you want to use as one of your electives, as long as it fits into your program, and as long as and if, well, let's say you are international, as long as Brittany says you're okay for CPT, and it'll fit into your program, which is what Nicole would help you out with. I'd be willing to be your supervisor for that. You do have to do an accounting research project as part of it, but I mean, it needs to be focused along the lines of what you've got, along the lines of what your internship is. So I mean, I'm willing to take people outside my degree program if the internship relates to that degree and it fits in your program. Let's see, other things that the one that I get a lot is, oh my gosh, I'm panicked. My internship starts next week and I don't have my visa yet. Well, there's you can look at Brittany's office as sort of, they're the mean ones. They don't let you do things. It's not because they're mean, it's because they have to report to the government, and the government, and it doesn't matter which government you're talking about, governments are notoriously inflexible when it comes to their rules. So you can conform to their rules and get what you want, or you can not conform to the rules and get really upset and still not get what you want. So we have to be really nice to Brittany, because her office is just doing what they have to do for us to be able to sponsor you folks for internships. All in all, I think it's a great program. I really applaud you all for doing it, doing an internship for international students. We do want to do everything we can to help you get employed. One of the things you really want to ask about with each one of your internships, though, is will they sponsor you? Because usually if you do a good job in the internship, you're going to get a job offer. But if they're not going to sponsor you, then maybe you have a couple of different things to do. The question is, do you want to stay in the United States and have them sponsor you? Do you want to go back or go to a different country and see what sort of opportunities they have there? But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we're working on streamlining the process for this. We'll see how things work out with that, but that's an ongoing issue. That's all I've got. Thank you, Audra.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm wondering, did Brittany or Nicole have anything to complement what Scott had to say, or other students have questions for faculty at this point in time? In the chat, raise your hand. I think we're good so far. Okay. Well, if we're good, then it's my turn. So again, we are 2 segments out of 4. And again, as a reminder, I work with the Graduate Career Development Office, and I just have a few slides to talk about finding an internship. Everybody's been talking about how to do it, but I think an important part of it is, how do you actually seek one? So I will encourage you to come to our office. And I think many of you at this point have taken the GCDI and know myself and my colleagues. So I encourage you to keep coming in on a regular basis, come to our events, etc. But I often get the question, do graduate students get good internships? And my answer to that is absolutely yes. Yes, we have a lot of good success stories. You'll see them on our website. You'll see them here at this point in time. You'll hear from your peers. Yes, graduate students definitely get great internships. And this slide is representative of where many of our students have landed internships over the course of 2021, domestic and international. So this sample list, this is not everybody, but this sample list actually includes 2021 CPT data, which again is what international students need to use in order to do one. So you see iRobot, you see Novartis, you see Schneider Electric, Synovian, Mass General Hospital, Analog Devices, National Grid, a lot of larger organizations, some startup firms. I'm seeing Deloitte here and EY, so some public accounting organizations. Many of them we've been developing relationships with over the years. But to say that, yes, this is some of the success that students have experienced over the course of this last year, even during this crazy pandemic. But you might be wondering, how do they actually get them? So I would encourage you to talk to some of your friends to learn, do some informational meetings. But again, I do like to use my chat. So I'm hoping that you can participate, students and faculty, Nicole, Brittany. How do you think, or what do you think the most effective way is or are to find internships? Just throw all of your ideas in the chat. Do you just wait for them? Oh, handshake. I love you, Caitlin. Anybody else? Oh, Claudia. Claudia says networking. Anybody else? Come on. You guys, I know that there are more than 30 people. There must be lots of other ideas out there. Anybody else have some thoughts? Wancham, I know you're out there. LinkedIn, Yvonne, thank you. LinkedIn, boy, everybody's saying LinkedIn. Networking, as in letting people know you're looking and the types of roles you're looking for. Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, so there are so many different ways to find opportunities. And those of you who actually were in CDI, my class, others, we talk a lot about the various ways, but two of them really always stick out. Most students actually love to find their opportunities through an online process. So we talked about, Nick was saying LinkedIn, Wanshan was saying the career fair, and someone actually even mentioned InnerStride. So yeah, one of the best ways to find an opportunity is online. But I would like to say it's not the only way, and that it is a way that you should really complement with networking, which will be my next slide. So just as a reminder, on our bentley.edu/GCD website, we talk about all the different resources that we have available. Certainly Handshake, InnerStride was mentioned, LinkedIn, EFMD for international students, InnerStride for international students, ZipRecruiter, Idealist, VentureFizz is a new one, Simply Hire. These are just a smattering of resources that you should use to apply online. And again, many students, a question that I get, Scott was saying that he gets certain questions all the time. But one of the questions that I get is, when I apply online, they just don't respond. Can you agree? Many students kind of have that same feeling. I see Mabuba, nodding her head. I wish I had put all this effort into applying and they don't respond. Is it me? Oftentimes it's not. And I would encourage you not just to wait, but I would really encourage you to follow through and then really target who you're actually applying to versus taking a random approach. I was talking to a student just the other day. He's like, oh, I randomly kind of just apply to things. And then he's surprised that, that he didn't receive any responses. So target your search, do some good follow through, and likely you'll be getting, some good responses back. As I said, networking is really the way people find opportunities. If I talk to Professor if I talk to Professor Cicchetti, who is a finance professor, also Professor Morrison, who is the internship advisor, faculty internship advisor for finance, they will always say that, in their history, their recollection, that a good portion of their students have always found their internships and opportunities through people that they know. So again, I'm going to ask everybody to put in the chat, participate with me. So again, the notion is talk to everybody that you know, let them know that you're looking for something and what you're looking for. So first one I always think about is family and friends. You know, they're definitely the ones who know you best and would do anything for you. So start with family and friends. Anybody else that you have in mind? Who else should you be connecting with and networking with to let them know that you're looking for an internship? So add your thoughts in the chat. Oh, Mabuba's going, alumni, teachers and professors. Thank you, Nick. Anybody else have any other students currently at Bentley? JP. That's a wonderful thought. Anybody else? So we're talking about students, teachers, professors, alumni. All of these are great. Recruiters, previous employers. Thank you, Faria and Navia. People that work within the company that you're interested in, reach out to them in LinkedIn. So again, that's all about doing informational meetings. Thank you so much. All right, so let's see what my slides say, faculty and staff. I'm not sure if Scott or Professor Boss or Professor Liu have any other things to add in terms of networking with you all. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm probably not. Oh, sorry. Scott, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm probably not directly address Audra's question, but I want to clarify. I think at the beginning of my presentation, I said, you know, you don't need to find me. You don't need to talk to me until you have the internship offer letter. What I mean to say is that, of course, you can come to me, of our MSBA student, you can come to me and asking questions, you know, finding jobs in the area. I just want you to know that that's not this job networking and all the tips and tricks, and you're probably going to get, you know, this is not my forte. You should talk to Audra and our career center. We have professionals. Of course, you can come to us. I want to clarify that.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu. And Scott, did you have anything else to add?
No, not really. It depends. The longer you do this job, the more contacts you have. And I've been doing this for a year now. My predecessor did it for about 25, so she had to, but then she retired. So that was, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, we have some of the best career services folks out there. I mean, they're really, really good. So I would really suggest that you take advantage of all the stuff that Audra's office has to offer you, and I mean, because they're very, very good at what they do.
Gosh, I didn't expect that. Thank you so much, Scott Boss. But yes, that's what we do. But again, I would echo that many faculty and staff. I know Nicole's been here for 10 years and Brittany's been here for, I don't know, 4 years. I've been here for 20 years. So I have to say, if you asked me if I knew somebody somewhere, I probably would say, yeah. So oftentimes there are many faculty, like Professor Boss had said, Karen Osterheld had been here for 20 years. She knew everybody at the big 4 firms. Not to say that they're going to do the linking. They probably usually will, if they get job offers, they'll let us know about it. We'll post it on Handshake. That's kind of the fairest, the best way to do it. But definitely the alumni are in touch with us, with faculty. They're always looking for people. So definitely touch base with faculty and staff. So thanks. I think Nick was the one who said teachers and professors. Again, other people, managers, I think that was also mentioned, current and prior. Alumni, that was one of the first things that was mentioned. But here's something that wasn't: professional organizations. So if you can join, there's definitely members to network with there who are in your field. So I encourage you to do that. Contacts that you meet at Bentley events and programs. So again, that's career fairs. And then again, it was already mentioned, second-year students or current students. Many of the students that were working in all of those organizations, they're no longer there unless they converted. Again, some organizations really only look for interns. And if they leave, they definitely are usually looking for somebody to take their place. One example of that is a recent relationship that we developed with Synovian Pharmaceuticals, which is also called SDPA. We've had so many interns there each and every semester They love Bentley and they only hire Bentley interns. Predominantly in the past has been in the internal audit area, but we've had a number of MBAs working there in finance, and it's expanding. They hire domestic students, international students, and really this year they actually have converted a few of their interns to international interns to perm. So again, talk to the students who just came from them, who've just completed them. Talk to your peers because you never know where the next best lead is going to come from. So again, the combination of applying online with networking and other things should lend itself to you finding a good opportunity. And if you do have questions, certainly let us know. People hire people that they know, so be that person. So I did want to mention Wansham had actually talked about career fairs. So certainly another way to find internship opportunities, job opportunities. So as a reminder, our spring virtual career fair on Handshake is going to be taking place on February 9th from 12 to 4. You should all have been receiving emails about this. I would register for your one-on-ones and your group sessions early to ensure that you are able to grab a spot. So that's coming up really, really soon in the next week or so. We do have a specific graduate career fair geared towards graduate students only that's happening on March 9th. And because we know that a lot of you are kind of pining to be in person, we're going to give a go, and hopefully the COVID is going to be cooperative, but we are going to have a portion that's 3 to 5 in person. We're going to have a portion that's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. same day, March 9th. That's virtual. That also is going to be on Handshake, the virtual portion. We do have an internship career fair that I do not have listed here, but it's scheduled for March 28th. So more information to come. So just to let you know that there are a lot of networking events that are in the works that are scheduled. So please feel free to join us for those. And I'm just going to end really quickly with just a reminder of who we are and our team. We're all smiling here. We're all looking forward to seeing you. So come in, use our drop-ins, come for appointments, make your appointments on Handshake. And then again, this is how you can do it. We can talk about all these things. Just a quick reminder to connect with us on social media as well, so that you can make sure that you're not missing out on various events, programs, and pieces of information. Again, last reminder to go to bentley.edu/GCD should you have any questions about what I've just said. A lot of what I've mentioned exists there. Okay. And then I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions for me, for others. Can we this is our break time. Let's see. I see a couple of hands here. So I'm going to ask Rusha.
Yeah, hi Audra. I just had one question. You earlier mentioned that there's going to be a spring career fair right now in February. So as an international student, I'm eligible to take up an internship next January. So do you suggest that I should be attending all these career fairs right now? Or when should I possibly start looking for internships in that case?
That is a really good question. And we always encourage people, kind of just like what Professor Liu said, to take advantage of all the opportunities to meet. Oftentimes, the people that are attending these career fairs, they do have opportunities that they're looking to fill immediately. But these are organizations that repeatedly come back. So if they're not looking for somebody now, you probably will see them again in another career fair the next year later or the next semester later. So I would say build your relationships early, kind of to the point that Professor Liu said earlier, start early. And again, I know that that's kind of in your makeup. You're one of the first people that I met from the spring semester. So continue to do that. I would encourage you to attend.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And Mabuba.
Thanks, Audra. I just have a quick question about sponsorship. Because Professor Scott mentioned that it's important to look for companies that sponsor international students, but at the same time, one of the CISS advisor once told me that we don't actually need sponsorship for CPT. So I was wondering what we should answer to the question. Like most of the companies have question in their application that do you now or in future need sponsorship from this company? So what do we answer there?
I think you have to, it's a good question, Mabuba. And I would say, Brittany, if you have thoughts as well, or others, feel free. But if they ask you specifically, if you're an international student, they ask you specifically if you now or in the future need sponsorship, and the answer is yes, then I would say yes. I would let them know that proudly you're an international student from wherever you're from, that in the situation, yes, you do require sponsorship, but you know, depending upon who you are, a lot of students are STEM-based students. So maybe they can work for 3 years in the United States. And again, you don't need to have sponsorship if you are to do an internship. So I think to clarify that, yes, don't just say that, yeah, I'm an international student, then leave it at that. I think I clarify that, yes, in the future, I will need sponsorship. I'm not a US citizen, but in the interim, I am available to do X, Y, and Z. I am available to do an internship while I'm a student using CPT. I am available to work for a year or 3 years after I graduate on OPT. If you are, you know, in one of those degree programs that allows for that. So I think I would clarify what you can do. I'm the positivity person. I think most people who've been in my class know that that's my number one strengths finder strength. So I would always talk realistically, but at the same time, try to be clear about what value I add and what I can bring to the table, what I can do. Brittany, do you have any other thoughts?
Just that the answer is yes, because of the future portion. As Audra mentioned, you know, yes, you may have some work authorization that you're eligible for immediately following your degree. But in the future, you know, that can mean 2 years, that can mean 10 years. So the answer is yes. I know that's not the greatest news because there are thoughts that sometimes your application will be set aside based on that response. And if it's just on a form, you can't speak to somebody. So I would again agree with what Audra said in trying to explain as much as you can what your work authorization eligibility is related to your F1 visa. We have a lot of good resources in explaining what CPT and OPT work authorizations are to employers. And I would also say I just attended a webinar this week through Interstride that really tackled this question, and they had recruiters, they had employers, I guess that's recruiters, the same thing, but really from a couple of different perspectives in how to present yourself when you are a student on an F1 visa and you are faced with this question. But again, the answer would be yes, you will need sponsorship in the future. So now or in the future, yes.
And I would like to thank you, Mabuba, for asking the question. And I will say in terms of Interstride, thank you, Brittany, for mentioning it, that Interstride typically will record their session. So the session that Brittany went to, unfortunately, I was not able to attend. So I'm looking forward to joining, and I encourage international students to join as well. Okay. Are there any other? So Joseph, you have a question, then I'm going to move on to Brittany. So get ready, Brittany.
Okay. Thank you. Part of my question has been answered by both of you, Audra and Brittany. But this is kind of a request or suggestion. Don't you think that, first of all, we appreciate that Bentley is one of the universities which takes a lot of international students. So you guys at the career fair, don't you think it's the right time now when you meet with the companies which you have partnership to encourage them to put to allow work authorization such as CPT and OPT? Because now most of the companies, we may say that they allow, but in reality, most of the companies, once you apply, if you're not allowed or you're not a permanent citizen, you don't get a chance to appear even in an interview. So now there are more restrictions to allow an international students to work. So I think because you have the relationship with like pharmaceutical companies, which you have said, such as STP, I think it's high time for you to assist international students to look more for companies which accepts more international students. That was my take on that.
Yes, and I really do appreciate that remark and that request. And to know, Joseph, I am the international student specialist, but at the same time, we work for all of our students. But again, given that's my title, it is something that is definitely on our plate to constantly look for employers that are interested in the best candidate. And the best candidate could be somebody that is not necessarily originally from here. And again, to your point, it's something that has always been in our goals to be able to assist all of our students here at Bentley, all of our graduate students, our undergraduate students as well. I will say, though, that the marketplace is changing in our estimation. You know, for the first time, the market is moving in the direction of candidates being in the candidate's favor versus the employers only. So the pandemic has kind of moved that along a little bit as well. I'm sure that many of you are reading about the Great Resignation, and people are moving on, lots of mobility at this point in time. And a lot of employers are thinking about, how do I actually retain my people? You know, especially given so much that's going on these days. So I do think it is a good opportunity to encourage people who may not have considered international students in the past more so to do so, because they are missing out on great candidates if they don't. And so I think that there is a need, and the time might be even more so right now. So I appreciate your sentiment. Anybody else have any other questions, any other thoughts? Okay. I will then ask Brittany to bring up the anchor and share some. We're on this topic of international students, and I know that there are some domestic students that are many, domestic students as well on this Zoom meeting. If you'd like to stay, we invite you to stay and learn. Certainly, if you do have other things, the focus right now is going to be on international students. Then we'll have one more segment of question and answer. So feel free to join us. And Brittany, tossing it to you.
Thank you. Okay, just before we start on this, two quick things. One is that in the InterStride webinar, I'm sure they'll have another one. We'll see if we can share the recording. They do mention just thinking of your internship and your employment really in the US as a very long game. So there were some examples that mentioned folks who worked for companies that had headquarters in the US and other places, went to another country to work for the company, and then were able to come back on a different type of visa, or then to apply for, the H-1B, which many people speak about. And that it wasn't something that I necessarily thought of or knew of. It's not what CISS advises on, but just keeping that in mind when you're looking at employers. And the other thing is, for the undergraduate side, I advise a student organization called International Student Association, and they have done a lot of good work in identifying which companies, along with career services, have a history of both hiring and sponsoring international students. And oftentimes for the career fair, they will create a special list that denotes these employers. So look for that information coming out, and thank your undergraduate kind of counterparts or friends if you see them around.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just one last thing, as you just reminded me, Brittany, that for those students, again, international students, InterStride really is a tool that we invest in just for you. And while certainly it is our goal to partner and build relationships and educate our employers, just to say that InterStride, the co-founders are also international, have been international students themselves, so they understand where you've been. And they do have options and different features that allow you to create target lists of companies. There's also sections on job search and being able to apply to opportunities. And you can filter CPT, OPT, H-1B. So again, interstride.com/Bentley. If you're not using it at this point in time, I encourage you to register for it and then see all that it has to offer. So thank you, Brittany. Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, can you just click maybe 3 or 4 times? There are, I think, 3 or 4 points on here. Okay,
Yep.
that's good for now. Thank you.
Yep.
So what is CPT? It is curricular practical training. I've answered some of these things, but I'll give a little bit more background now. We call it CPT just because it's less of a mouthful, similar to CISS. So it is a work authorization for internships related to your degree with an off-campus employer for credit. That's been underlined a lot today, but just want to make sure you know, for students on F1 visas, this is kind of a perk of your F1 visa. You're able to apply for the work authorization. It's authorized on a semester basis while at Bentley. I say this because sometimes you may have an employer who would like to hire you beginning in January to go through June. Keep in mind of how the Bentley calendar works for semesters. That would require you to apply for 2 separate CPTs. So that's 2 separate courses. You'd have to have 2 separate unique positions that go back to the courses. Alternatively, you could work with your employer and ask them if they could amend your end date. So that's always an option, but I like to share that as well. CPT is for both paid and unpaid work. There's an asterisk next to unpaid, first of all, because we would love for you to be paid. We want you to be compensated for your work, of course. The unpaid portion is that making sure that if you do accept an unpaid internship, that there's not somebody else in a similar role being paid at the employer. And that is a US labor law. That is something that the employer, you know, would really need to follow. But, you know, we review your offer letters, just keeping that in mind, make sure that if it's unpaid across the board for anybody in a similar position. CPT can be full-time. That should be, part-time I'll start with. That symbol should be less than or equal to, so up to 20 and including 20 hours a week is considered a part-time CPT, and then 21 hours or more is considered full-time. CPT is different and separate from on-campus employment. This means that you can have a position on campus. You're allowed to work on an F1 visa up to 20 hours a week on campus, and also complete or participate in CPT. Again, because it's related to your course of study, the main thing to consider here is that you are able to complete all the requirements for your CPT, so for your internship and your course, and also work on campus. Remember that you are a student first, so if it's too many hours, hard to juggle, you may have to reprioritize what opportunities you'll use or take advantage of that semester. Thank you. So who is eligible for CPT? You have to be enrolled as a full-time student for the past 2 semesters. Academic semesters we calculate from fall and spring, or just fall and spring semesters. This is because although you may take courses during the summer, even up to full-time status if you'd like, you're not required to on an F1 visa. So we just count the semesters where you're required to be a full-time student. Without gaps, that means that you have not have a leave of absence that would affect your, your F1 status. Periods of OPT, so if you were an undergraduate student or had a degree somewhere else and then completed OPT and now you're at Bentley, that has restarted, in a sense, your CPT clock. So you will begin to accrue eligibility for CPT again. We don't count the time period that you may have been a full-time student, a full-time F1 student before, or extended time between programs. It's kind of the same thing as leave of absence, just to keep that in mind. The other part, the kind of an exception, you may be a CVIS transfer student. I don't know how many are here. If you are a CVIS transfer student, that means that you could have been an undergraduate student who had your immigration record transferred to Bentley without OPT. So you finished your degree, you graduated undergrad, and then you came directly to Bentley to begin your graduate program, or maybe you began a graduate program somewhere else. And again, no gaps, came directly to Bentley to either to start a new program or continue a program. In that case, if you have 2 academic semesters of full-time study in F1 status, you may be eligible for CPT. So that may mean that you are eligible before some of your fellow classmates. You must be in F1 status at the time of CPT. And CPT, as somebody asked, it cannot be your only course in your last semester. It must be accompanied by an in-person degree required course. This is where Nicole and her office really come into play to make sure that you're planning ahead and thinking about, you know, when you would like to complete a CPT and making sure that you might keep a course available, particularly also if you're thinking of taking courses in the summer, but you want a CPT for the fall and that's your last semester, maybe don't take all 3 courses in the summer or don't take 2, just take 1 so that you have something else that can live with your CPT course during your last semester. And then your I-20 program end date cannot be extended for the purpose of CPT. You must have, sorry, I have the chat come open here. Oh, 1 second, okay. So you must have 3 course requirements remaining at Bentley. So that is a fancy way kind of saying, you know, say you are ending your course, you are meeting all your requirements and you get this great internship and now you want to stay at Bentley longer. There is a way for F1 status, if you have not completed all your degree requirements, we can extend your end date. So we can say, okay, this student's taking a little bit longer to complete their degree, that's fine. If it's a course, not just if it's an internship, so not just for CPT. If there's another course you also need to take and then you're tagging CPT along with it, that's fine, but we can't do that just for CPT. Thank you, next. Okay, so this is really, really important. A snapshot of the CPT process. Globally, what you need is to submit an offer letter and a CPT application to CISS. Everything is done virtually, you email it to us. All of this information also lives on our website, very detailed. I'm gonna go over the components of an offer letter because unfortunately, Professor Boss was very kind in the that he said, unfortunately, I have to be the one sometimes to reply and say, I cannot continue processing your CPT, and that, we talk about the clock and how long it takes to process, that restarts everything. So if I have to email you back, your application is not considered complete and we kind of start over from the beginning. So your offer letter should be on official letterhead when at all possible. It should include the employer address, or it must include the employer address, I should say. It has to clearly state the start and end dates of your employment. So just also a reminder, this is really important information you can share with your employer ahead of time. A lot of places have kind of, what's the word? Maybe generic, or they might have a template of offer letters that they provide you, but remember that you need to have this information. It can come in a supplemental letter. I have made bold the position title and description of position responsibilities because I've been receiving a lot of applications and offer letters that do not have this information. This is very, very important, particularly because for the example I gave earlier, if you wanted to stay with a really complete an internship, more than one internship with the same employer, we have to make sure that they're unique experiences, because CPT really means that you're taking the information that you learn in the classroom and you're applying it. So you're furthering your academic education. In order to prove that, we can't have you taking like the same course twice. So most employers are really good and will work with you to make sure that even if your position title stays the same, that your responsibilities change enough so that it can be considered a new experience and you're doing new things, so you can have 2 separate CPTs, okay? The last part for the offer letter is that it should list how many hours a week you are working. Again, 20 hours inclusive or less is considered part-time. 21 hours or more is considered full-time. I think I get into this later, but just in case I don't, the part-time versus full-time is really important because we want to make sure that you do not exceed 365 days of full-time CPT, because that will negatively impact your ability to use your OPT. I will get out a calculator and count. I've done it probably 3 times so far this semester, but a reminder that it is, it's a shared responsibility, so we'll both be working on it. So just keep that in mind. We don't want you to exceed it, but that's good to keep in mind when you're communicating with your employer. The second thing is to apply for approval of the internship. Of course, as you said, you will do that with Nicole's office. We do not need to see that form, but that is part of the process. It's kind of like you're promising us when you submit your CPT information that you are in fact going to be registered in a course. Because again, we're on your behalf, we're telling the government, yes, the student's all set and they are, applying, they qualify for CPT and they are able to, do what they need to do. Let's see.
Did you want to see the form or no?
Yes, you can. Okay, so this is the application form. Pretty self-explanatory. I'll just point out in this first kind of box that has the start date and the end date of employment, there is a bolded statement that says dates must match employer offer letter, as I've said, and your start date should be at least 7 business days from when you submit your application to CISS to allow for processing. Again, that means your completed application, okay? So if you submit everything to me on February 1st and I send it back to you and you submit it again on the 5th is the day that you submitted, and then your start date should be 7 business days in advance. I do my very best to process faster than that. However, we want to make sure you have enough time to have the correct documentation you need to begin your internship. Additionally, if you do not have a social security number yet, you will need your CPTI-20 to apply for your social security number. That can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. So do keep that in mind, and please do talk with your employer about that. The second part that is really important on here that often people forget is that your internship coordinator has to sign this form. So if I get this form, it doesn't have an internship coordinator signature, it's coming back to you. So do us both a favor, take your time. You may send it to, I prefer you send me a completed document. Sometimes your internship coordinator will send it on your behalf and will CC you. But please keep those 2 particular parts in mind on the application. Number 5, we have here, please allow 5 business days for processing. I always like to remind international students, Massachusetts specifically, but in this country, we have a lot of Monday holidays, which means the university is closed. There is a holiday coming up where the university is open. That's a little bit different, but just keep that in mind when you're calculating the business days and planning ahead. All right, so COVID-19 related considerations. The first one, with CPT authorization, students may continue to participate in remote or in-person internships from anywhere in the US or abroad. We've been saying this for probably 3 or 4 semesters. This will likely not be the case in the future. I'm not sure right now. We know the policies for this semester. They may change for the summer. They may change for the fall. Just stay tuned. We'll definitely update you. This is important because some people who have started their F1 status, things happen, or because you're a graduate student, you're able to take courses remotely. Maybe you decide that you want to continue your degree program from outside of the US. With the policy now in place as of January 28th, 2022, you are able to continue with your F1 status if you're outside of the US. Once you've completed this first semester and you have that 1 in-person course, yeah, that's fine. If you have questions, please contact CISS, let us know. Again, if that changes, you will get a lot of emails from us explaining exactly what that means for your case. The second kind of point under there, CPT eligibility is unaffected. This also means that if you are a continuing student, again, who already had F1 status and for some reason did not come back to the US, but you're continuing your studies at Bentley, you will continue to accrue eligibility to apply for CPT. As I mentioned before, many Social Security Administration offices are closed or operating remotely, or they require special appointments. It really is an office by office thing. It depends. Terry in our office has a lot of knowledge around this. She kind of tracks applications from different students. So please do keep that in mind. You'll need to contact the office directly, Social Security administration office. They have their own application you'll have to complete as well. But really, it's just it's a timing thing. You may get a busy signal, or they might not answer the phone. We've heard that as well. Just keep calling. Pack a lot of patience when you're dealing with the Social Security Administration. And I think there's one more point on the COVID-related considerations.
One more?
I think.
Okay, hold on. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Okay, so new students must enter the US in F1 status to begin accruing CPT eligibility. Again, if you're here in the US and studying, that means that you're starting to be able to be eligible, and then you just count, one full-time fall semester, one full-time spring semester, and that following semester you're eligible. So for folks who this is your first in-person semester at Bentley, in F1 status, spring, and then you have fall 2022, and then for spring 2023 you will be eligible for CPT. All right, lastly, this is how to connect with us. We have updated this. Any email you receive from us, it'll be at the bottom in our signature. It is on our website as well, but we have virtual advising via Zoom Tuesdays and Thursdays 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. It's just drop in, so you join. Please be patient. Somebody is there. They may just be speaking with another student, so you don't have to call or email to check in. 9 to 11 a.m. We're there Eastern Standard Time. And then on Wednesdays, we have set aside in-person advising in our office. Our office is in the Student Center, affectionately known as down the hill at Bentley. So most of your courses are going to be up the hill. You do have to come down to venture to see us if you'd like, or you can just hop on Zoom. In-person advising is Wednesdays, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're in Suite 310. If you come down the hill and you go right into the Student Center building, you'll find us. Can't miss our office at all. Otherwise, somebody is in the office Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We are available via email. That is the best way to reach us, honestly. You may also call us if you need to. And then again, just a shout out to our website, we spend a lot of time really taking time to be very clear about our instructions on our website. We are constantly updating things with different policy changes and trying to make processes clearer. So start with the website. Something doesn't make sense, then email us or visit us during maybe virtual advising hours. And if all else fails, feel free to stop by. That is all I have for today for CPT. If you have questions, we have a couple minutes for questions.
That was a mouthful, Brittany. Congratulations. I was going to say, yay. I did have a question about something. It just kind of went out. Anybody else have a question for Brittany? It was a lot that she had shared, a lot of information that exists. Oh, there was one about CPT. There's CPT workshops, OPT workshops, but is there one coming up with regard to CPT soon?
There is, and I was trying to see if we had, I don't think we have it listed on our website yet, but I'm going to pull up my calendar.
Yeah, I think
I'll tell you next month, so February 2nd, 2 to 3 p.m. It is virtual. We have the CPT session. And then there is an OPT session February 1st, I think in the same time frame. But if you are an international student, please look out, check your email. We will send it via email. We will keep you posted. If you have questions, you can always email us and we'll send you. There's one link for all CPT workshops this semester and a different link for all OPT workshops.
So it seems like we have tuckered them out.
I was so thorough, huh?
So thorough. Did I tell you you were going to hear and learn everything in one place? So hopefully all of you feel like you have a good foundation in terms of these 4 segments of the graduate academic internship process and experience. I'm going to throw out there, I know it's 12:30 right now, but does anybody have any last burning questions for anyone on this call meeting? Anybody? All right. Well, I think thank you so much for you all for attending today. on a Friday before crazy snowstorm. Everybody stay safe, stay warm, stay well. And again, know all of our faces. Come visit us should you need anything at all. We are here, as I said earlier, to help. And again, we have recorded this, so I think we're all set, Brittany, at this point. But if you are interested, we will be posting this. So if you'd like to revisit it again,